Yeah, 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 yeah. Welcome to me casa, make yourself at home, do your do. Welcome to my pad, this your lab, go create your move.
What's good, everybody? It is the 99 Miles Per Hour podcast with me, your host, Perci Garner. And it's a good day. I have someone special in the house who doesn't live in Tuscarawas County. But before we get to him, I want to make sure we do, I get this intro down. We're going to get it down this time. All right, for everybody watching, we appreciate it. We appreciate you tuning in. We're everywhere. And then if you want to watch the video version, which is always better, we're on YouTube. If you can subscribe, that would be amazing. And make sure you check out all the podcasts on the Get Level Podcast Network. That is the ADC, Alcohol Drug Coalition, Community Mental Health Care, Tusk with Against Trafficking, all of them. They're all good. They're all about, nonprofits and just trying to get their voice out there. And that's what Josh is about. And if you didn't know, Josh All is the producer of this. Say hello.
Hey, and just so you know, there's somebody special, right, Percy, on the last Big Brothers Big Sisters podcast?
Yeah, so family of mine. I don't know if he's always great. Very happy to admit that, but I can't wait to see that podcast. I want to see how he, on camera, how he acts.
He did good. He did good.
That's good. But yeah, we got plenty of podcasts on this network for you to check out. But we're going to get into it. We have a Cleveland Indians. He was a pitching coach in Arizona for me. And but now he's pitching, or he's the manager for the Cleveland Indians Arizona League. And we're going to get into it. We're going to talk a little bit about, pitching and basically his background for baseball and his coaching career and everything pretty much in between. So I want to introduce one of my favorite coaches because he taught me how to get out of my way and throw hard. And it it extended my career and helped me get to the big leagues with the Cleveland Indians. And that is the Ken Knutson. Did I say that right? Knutson? Knutson,
yeah, you got it pretty good.
I just call you Coach. So.
Percy? Yeah.
But it's good having you. How are you?
I'm doing great, man. As good as you can be doing with COVID and all that stuff.
Yeah.
I'm at home. I do this a lot. So
it's a new style of coaching. Tell us a little bit about how that's been going with, because you're not just dealing with, high schoolers and college Americans. You're dealing with people from different countries who might not have, the greatest internet or the best resources, baseballs, facilities like we do here. Just talk a little bit about, what challenges you've been facing in that area.
Well, you hit a bunch of them, but what the Indians have decided to do, or what we've done as an organization, about 5 weeks ago, we started coaching remotely. And the thought was, we're going to pretend like we have a regular season going on, but there's no games, right? So, we have this thing that we do, and with the Indians and being in development, it's a lot of it's individualized player goals and programs and profiles and all this stuff. And so we're trying to do this now. My position is unique because my kids are all young, right? I have 25 Latin players in the Dominican or Colombia or, somewhere. And some of them haven't played professional baseball yet. So we don't have any data on them. We don't have any video on them in games. It's a little bit challenging. So we're doing some real basic stuff, but you touched on it. The challenge is just the internet. Literally in the Dominican right now, they're locked down with COVID and they can't get out. We have guys throwing homemade baseballs, hitting beans with PVC pipe, and it's kind of crazy.
Dang. Can you imagine having to do that?
No.
And obviously we like to complain over here, but when you think about that, and obviously you're getting excited, you're trying to start your professional career, and then this strikes. I've been talking about on this podcast, like the student athletes who aren't able to, get recruited for college the way it's usually happening, or either college athletes, are missing a year of athletics. But a lot of people don't think about the young professionals in the Dominican, Venezuela, Puerto Rico, and stuff like that. That it's a challenge, man, and it could be discouraging, but a lot of the people in Dominican, this is all they have. This is their dream all the time, like baseball, and to have this, kind of just ran on their parade. All of them are happy they just got signed. They're like, we're going to play baseball, and then and then they're all locked down in Dominican, and they're not, in Arizona with the coaching, with the facilities, with the nutritional programs you guys provide, with the weight program. And are you guys able to, with coaching and with the online meetings, are you able to at least kind of monitor a little bit what they're doing?
Yeah, they're checking in daily. Literally, they have to do a wellness report every day or a diary. All the fundamental coaches, it's, strength and conditioning, medical, pitching, hitting, defense, they're all checking in with our players, but it's a challenge. Like literally I have one guy that plays catch in a parking lot Percy, you ever been to the Dominican?
No, I was supposed to go a couple times, never made it over.
Yeah. Well, if you do, don't drive, have somebody drive you, because it's like they do it completely different than what we're used to. They use the horn more than the brake, and so this kid's playing catch in a driver's ed parking lot, which I don't think that exists in the Dominican. Like nobody goes to driver's ed, maybe accident avoidance, right? And then he goes home and he hits balls off a tee into a net hanging from a tree. He's hitting homemade balls into a net hanging from a tree. That's his workout on the baseball side of things.
Wow.
And then strength and conditioning, it's all body weight. It's all, we communicate with him to do, but he doesn't have anything to lift, and so it's something else. But I mean, talking about the young Latin players, the coolest thing for me going into pro baseball, outside of getting you to the big leagues or helping with that, is understanding just the culture and what these guys go through to be in the United States, coming from the DR, and how appreciative they were of being here. And a lot of stuff, man, and it's really cool. And so I think the Indians do a great job on who they sign, and they have a process that they go through, and these kids are all awesome. And I mean, you're talking about student athletes earlier, and I can remember going to college 100 years ago, and my school was the junior college was 150 miles from my doorstep, right? And I was homesick and had to come home like 12 times, my freshman year, just to see my family and all that. And here these guys are thousands of miles, don't speak the language, right? And they're just, it's awesome to help them and assist them. And that's a big part of my job, and a big part of my team is going to have that profile.
Yeah, I mean, when I came to the Indians, so I'd been a part of the Phillies organization before the Indians, and the Phillies, they had the Philly way is what they called it. And I would say it's pretty similar to the Indians. The way, they have the English class to help them learn English. And they try to make it seem, very inviting and very like, hey, even the players, they could easily say, hey, these guys are trying to take my job. I'm not helping them out at all. But once you get to know the Latin players, and, obviously they just love the game. They just want to play, and that's all they want to do. And you start to admire that, like, okay, like, they love the game. They came here to play baseball. They didn't come here to, be a veterinarian. Like, and I know some people that do end up staying and love America and stuff like that, but their goal, and you would start to admire it from a distance. You're like, man, this, every day they got a lot of more challenges to face than I do. And, I got my college education to fall back on. I have, a lot of us have, families and stuff in America that we can kind of go stay with in the off season. And it's just a little different, but I just know there's a couple players that just grinded through the minor leagues. A lot of them are coming over at 16. And I can't imagine being in professional baseball at 16 and just having to overcome so many things. And then, but a lot of them, I'm jealous because they just play so free. They're just out there playing. And I know a lot of my stuff in my career was more of up here and, hold myself back. But a lot of the guys I think of like, and he wasn't with the Indians, but like Maikel Franco. He was like a young guy that came with the Phillies, and he didn't know. They just gave him catcher's gear, and he wasn't supposed to catch. But he was out there, standing up, basically trying to catch bullpens. And they're like, "What are you doing?" He's like, "I don't know." So they just gave him catcher's gear. He's like, "I don't catch. But then there's obviously all you see is the guys that make it to the big leagues. You don't think about the guys that don't. So you see Jose Ramirez and Roberto Perez, even though Roberto Perez was Puerto Rican, but you see a lot of those players and you don't know their journey. You just assume certain things. And once you are in it and you're watching these kids, it's a whole different animal. And I just love like when a lot of those guys make it and they're playing. And obviously we've seen Jose hit a couple home runs the other night. But it's something that I think kids here should, I guess, get to see or get to like not experience, but just get to know what happens and how they have to come up and the struggles they face. Because minor leagues by itself is a struggle. But other than that, so obviously we talked about that, and that is something I really wanted to share with people. So I'm glad that we were able to get that out. But I also want the people to know some of the Indians pitchers or Indians coaches that they don't, see on TV like Tito and them. Just I guess a little bit of your background. So I know we talked a little bit before, and you're, where you're from, you're out west and stuff like that. But just talk about a little bit of your background.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I was a college coach for 30 years. I was the head coach at the University of Washington for 17, and I went to Arizona State for 5. I was an assistant at Washington before that. I was a short stint at Wichita State, literally months before I was hired at Washington as a head coach. But I'd always been a college guy, a head coach or a pitching coach, right?
Yeah.
And then coaching changed at Arizona State, and I was just gonna do the academy thing. I had this plan when I came down here from Washington is like, one, get in the sun. That was the biggest thing. Get out of the rain, get into the sun, and just do this academy and sort of drift towards a retirement and coach pitchers and do my thing, right? And then the Indians came calling. I sort of have a unique little place in baseball. I think you know about it. It's gotten pretty common now since 15 years ago when I started with weighted balls and pitchers training specific stuff. He talked about House, and he really, in a way, he's sort of responsible for that journey that got me to what I do now. And so anyway, went to work for the Indians. I was originally, or my first 5 years with them, I was the throwing programs coordinator and rehab throwing program coordinator type of thing. So I worked with all the rehab guys, and just the way the Indians are, anybody that's in Arizona, and if they're throwing a bullpen, and if I'm at the facility, I'm going to help them or coach them, or, we're going to talk about guys and we'll all be involved. So, I could have a special project, a big leaguer coming down. It could be, I rehabbed, Danny Salazar for 3 years, it seemed like, and some guys and it was kind of a cool job because like when I watch an Indians game, like every guy out there I've rehabbed just about, and sometimes it's just hitting them fungos or, answering phone calls. When is he going to be ready to move type of thing or whatever. Right. Yeah. So it's a lot of fun and but I hadn't been on the field. And so anyway, I'm back on the field now. I'm managing the AZL, the Arizona Fire League, I like to call it, but it's young kids. It's our youngest team in the United States. And, so without a season, though, it's just kind of weird, right? So I've got 25 Latin kids, and I've got all the new drafted players are in my work group. Let's just call it that, right? So they all, we have a meeting on Monday virtually. We're on Zoom. The whole team is. We go through what we're going to do that week. The focus for my team has been time management. It's been being accountable, right? Yeah. Developing a player partner sort of team to become one. So they're responsible for each other, answering your phone, and make sure you do your wellness journals and just be responsible. We're trying to teach them routines that are going to lead them into a good professional career, right? And when you don't have much, you just go with what you got. And I've had a blast doing it. It's been a lot of fun, but I do miss the game. Now, we did play one spring training game. We won 3-0. Uh-oh. So I'm 1-0. I haven't lost a game in like 4 months. It's the longest streak of my coaching career for sure.
Oh, man, that's awesome. Well, I mean, like I said earlier when we talked on the phone beforehand, I mean, being able to, coach like this, I guess it's a learning experience and mix it up since all the experience you've had coaching. But so what made you, obviously you've had a long career in coaching. Like what moment, I'm not saying when you started coaching, but what moment were you like, this is what I'm going to do for forever?
Well, I don't know. I just never really wanted to work, I guess, just coaching baseball is not work. It's just like coaching, and it's funny. I have some mentors in my life. My most important one's a guy named Frank Bartonetti, and I met him when I was 12 years old, and we're still good friends, and he still mentors me. And he had 9 kids, so it was, I ran around with a bunch of them. And he told me he knew when I was 14 years old that I was going to be a baseball coach.
Really?
I'm going, I don't know how you figure that one out, but I always had an interest in the whole game, And you know how it is, Percy, being a pitcher, sometimes they like we're not even really part of the team sometimes, right? We're just pitchers, we're not,
Exactly.
You're just pitcher. Remember Dave Henderson, Hindu's a great guy, man. He passed away a few years ago. And I asked him about a guy that he played with, and he goes, oh, yeah, he was a pitcher. I didn't really know him. He was on his team. He was his teammate. Yeah, he's a pitcher. Right? It's one of those.
That's how it goes.
So I don't know. And it happened pretty quick. I started coaching at Washington when I was 23 years old.
Wow.
I was a good college player, wasn't good enough to sign. And my head coach in college asked if I wanted to help, and I went from being an unpaid volunteer to being the top assistant in about 5 years. So that's what got me going. And
nice.
It's a pretty good gig. It's awesome to coach baseball players. I love being on a team.
Yeah, I noticed that when I got signed in 2015 after being released by the Phillies, and I got signed and I go out there to meet you, and just the patience you had with me and the plan that you guys had was just amazing. And it was me and Sturdy were out there just literally, we're just throwing the ball as hard and as far as we could for about 2 months before we even thought about pitching. And they were just trying to break me down and get me to be an athlete and get everything out of the way, which I had, a lot of struggles with, where, I'm thinking about what I'm doing in my delivery and stuff. So a lot of kids I'm working with now, I'm trying to, I guess replicate what you were, helping me. I even got the little pocket radar. I'm ready. And, but I do want to ask, so what did you see in me where you're like, okay, this guy's got the potential to be, a super hard thrower, even harder than what he's throwing now, and to just be, someone that I think can succeed if they believe in themselves, because obviously you believe in me is still not going to help me pitch in the big leagues. I have to believe myself. But how were you able to transfer that belief and just, kind of get me a couple ticks above where I was at when I arrived in Arizona?
I say this all the time, Percy. I say, I can screw you up in about an hour. I could make it so you couldn't even throw a baseball, and so much of the time, the curse is being kind of smart, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you kind of fit that, I think,
Well, I appreciate
but it's just
that.
like overthinking it, right?
Yes.
Yeah, no, it's a backwards compliment, but whatever. And so this is that your best games, you're just free and you're just going. You're in the zone, you're just going. And sometimes we get so hung up on positions and what I'm trying to do and all that stuff that what I always call it the athletic throwing program, just like let the athlete come out and let that beast of an arm eat and, and not think about it, right?
Yeah.
Just go back to being just trying to throw.
Yeah.
And I truly believe that if you're an elite thrower, then we can worry about pitching, and so often that, they want to go backwards. They want to teach delivery before we develop the thrower, and I always want to go I want to get athletic and get moving and let the body sort of organize itself and have a goal, which is to throw hard and accurately, and then we'll work from there. Yeah,
and I've adopted that. I remember he gave me a little band that said, throw more, pitch less. I still have it. I don't wear it now because, it doesn't fit, I guess, if I'm walking into a business like, hey, you want to buy some technology? I'll throw hard. But, and I kind of adopt, what you just talked about with the kids I'm working with. I'm like, hey, look, they're like, yeah, he doesn't know how to pitch. I just want him to get the right mechanics. I'm like, look, we want his mentality and we want his intent to be, throwing hard and learning how to control, the hard throw. We're not going to learn, I don't want to throw darts. And that's what I kind of grew up doing. I would want to throw hard, but then when I get behind an account, then you start, and I just I'm trying to teach the kids consistency. What, you laughing at my sound?
I'm just wondering how that's going to come across on audio only.
They'll understand what I'm trying to do. But I love that you said exactly what you said. It's very important. And I basically steal a lot of the drills that you were doing with us, with me out in Arizona with these kids, just to have them thinking, hey, I'm looking at the catcher's mitt and I'm throwing that ball hard right through it. And a lot of times the kids, they get surprised. They're like, whoa, you know? And they're like, hey, can you bring out the radar just to see? I'm like, kid, you're 10, relax. But no, I'm glad that you shared that. And it was fun, you know, being alongside you and working with all the drills. And I don't know if you remember, but one of the days that really clicked with me is when it was me, you, and Zapata with the weighted balls. And Zapata was this humongous human being who just threw a million miles an hour. But he was coming off of rehab, and Kim was working with him. And, you know, me looking at him, I'm never going to throw as hard as that guy, you know, whatever. And Ken's like, hey, let's see what you can do here. You know, he brings out the pocket radar, and I'm throwing the weighted balls, and I see Zapata's just, you know, and I throw one and I throw it good. And Ken's like, oh, that was pretty good. You know, he's like, after the fact, he's like, how hard do you think that was? I was like, I don't know, probably 90. He's like, no, I was 99. I was like, what? Now it's a weighted ball, so obviously it's a little different. But to me in my head, I was like, oh, and it just got me thinking like, oh, well, I can do this. And hence the title of the podcast. But Ken, I never got to 100, man. I tried so hard. 99, but yeah, it's all good. But
you're still breathing. Let's go.
That's why I had to have one there. I love Ken. But I love all this, and we would just have fun while we were out there, and it was a great time. But I guess I want to talk about a little bit more about, you know, the Tom House thing. I saw the that video and how he was talking. He told a little story about Randy Johnson, how him and Nolan Ryan were sitting there, and Randy Johnson's coming over, and he's like, you know, they're like, hey, Randy, because I guess he's doing from USC, and Randy's like, hey, man. And they're like, how's it going? He's like, I just can't throw strikes, man. And if you guys go back and look at the stats at Randy Johnson in like first 2 or 3 years in the league, you know, you wouldn't look and think that, okay, that was Randy Johnson. He was struggling. So Tom House and them talked about, and are you familiar with this story? Mm-hmm. Okay. And Tom House. A little bit. Yeah. And so they were like, hey, Nolan Ryan was like, hey, let's, you know, come tomorrow and let's, you know, meet us over, you know, so-and-so part of the field and let's work on some things. And then they did that. And then I think 3 weeks later, he faced them again, the Rangers that was, and put up 18 strikeouts. And so, and all it was just a little technique that he fixed. And it's just, it was just crazy. You don't think that something this small could change a whole, you know, mentality of a player and just start to believe in himself and then just start attacking the strike zone. And that's, I mean, that's basically what you did with me. But have you adapted that whole program and philosophy, or do you just take like bits and pieces from it and just apply it? Because obviously you can't just go, hey, Cleveland Indians, we're going to do this whole program. This is what we're doing. Or can you? I don't know.
Well, I just, you know, I do what I do. And like what I brought to the Indians is, it's kind of funny. When we were last year, when I was discussing becoming a manager, they said, you know, what we brought you in here to do, you've sort of done. It's throughout the organization now, like weighted balls, arm health, throwing programs, all that stuff. So, you know, Eric Bender sort of started it, and we had the same background, you know, that go through the Texas baseball ranch. Yeah. Right. And so then I came and they go like, you know, it's sort of, your work's kind of done. And I think they were concerned a little bit about me being in rehab and wanted to know if I'd be interested in getting back in the field. But to answer your question is like, whether you're a position player or you're 12 years old or a big leaguer, I think there are things that you need to do. You need to be athletic. Everybody's got a ceiling, and we just got to push towards that. Right. So, you know, but age and strength and history and brains and all that can get in the way of that, or determine what path we'll take to get there.
Yeah, I did see that him talk about, you know, when he was working with the football players too, because he works with quarterbacks, and they were saying, you know, people like Tom Brady and Drew Brees, they're older, they're not really growing anymore. So now it's just them kind of refining stuff, as opposed when you're telling a 12-year-old kid, this is how your reps should be. They have to do those reps so many times. And then if they gain weight, get taller, or gain muscle, then there's kind of a new start. And I never thought of it like that. And I just, a lot of the 12-year-olds, I don't know how to, you know, talk to them. They do ask me all these questions, and I'm like, look, I started weighted balls when I was 26 when I met Ken. I don't know. So I guess my question is, to a little leaguer, because I'm trying to teach arm health, like what is the best? Do you think weighted balls have from room for the little leagues and growing pitchers?
Yeah, well, it's hard to say. I mean, for me, it's the volume of throwing is the most critical thing with the young kids, right? I tell this to parents all the time. I can get your kid throwing really hard, but he might break, right? Before he's mature enough where those growth plates have closed and he's started to get strong enough is that he might not be able to support throwing that hard. Now, he also can do some crazy things because they're so flexible. You know how kids are when they're that age. They can, they can do things that, big leaguers can't do, type of deal. So I'm always I will reduce the volume and I will let him throw. I've never had a guy get hurt throwing weighted balls. It just doesn't happen. But again, it's the volume. So in a session, if I'm working with a college kid or a pro or a high school kid in the off season, let's say, and we've been working for a while, we might make 120 pretty intentful throws during the course of the day, in an hour and a half. There's breaks and running around. If you're a little leaguer, I would probably try to cut that in half. Okay. Just because the volume, I just don't want to. It's like innings, right? Yeah. You can go out and throw 200 in the big leagues, but in little league, I'm saying you should only throw a couple innings a week, type of thing. It'd be better for you at this point. Yeah. Because again, you can create so much force and you can't support it. Yeah. Right. And so my thing, number one deal in coaching, I really believe is health. Right. It doesn't matter if you're banged up. You don't help anybody, right? Yeah. You can't get on the field. You can't play. So that's got to be the priority. And I think that goes back to being a college guy where, you didn't have a JV team where you couldn't go to, call up some guys from the minor leagues. It's like you start the season with 12 pitchers. It's not going to get any bigger. Yeah. It only gets smaller. So keep those guys on the field. And also that's how I met House. That's literally how I came in contact with him. And it's a long time ago now. It was the early 90s, I'm talking about 30 years ago. Yeah. And he had a seminar and I went down there and then it got me with, down this other path, but it was wrong. I went to a seminar that he was doing down at the Texas Baseball Ranch. Okay. And, and it changed my career. He did some stuff. I really wasn't on board with his mechanical stuff. And he had a concept that came out there, opposite and equal, how the arms line up and just symmetry between the upper half. And that really got me going. And I met this other guy, Ron Wolfirth, who was a weighted ball guy, and Trevor Bauer was with him at the beginning and all that kind of stuff. So it was sort of that. But then remember, I was a head baseball coach at the University of Washington and the pitching coach. So I could do what I wanted. I didn't have to answer to the organization or to other people. It's just like, if you win, you're going to keep your job. If you don't. And so when I sort of on this discovery path I was on, once I learned some stuff, I just started applying it to our guys, and we had a lot of success. And then it didn't hurt that Lincecum came through the program either. That sort of helps when you get a multiple Cy Young Award winner that plays there for a couple of years. So
that does help.
That's kind of the path. But really, it's just being a student of really good throwers, right? And I go, a thrower is a thrower, whether you're a catcher, a pitcher, a shortstop, a cricket player, and applying those concepts universally to how guys that throw well, what do? And they use their body well, and they're strong. So that's pretty simple stuff. Yeah. And you might also say, Perci, is that like when they ask me to be a rehab guy, I go like, I don't know anything about rehab. I've never had anybody hurt, but what I did was all my training was, we just did all the stuff that you do after you get hurt, before you get hurt, right? All the arm conditioning, all the stuff that we did, the bands, the shoulder tubes, the weighted balls, all that was typically after you had Tommy John surgery or something, right? We just did it beforehand, and we kept guys on the field.
Yeah, I did that program, man. Obviously, we were throwing the weighted balls, but just everything we had with that big old, the shaker or whatever it was. Like my arm, it was literally
shoulder tube.
Yeah, the shoulders. you like my words?
Bauer has that, right?
Yes. All the stuff that the program you guys had, my arm was, only thing that was sore was the rest of my body. My arm was always like tip top shape, and that's very important, obviously. So at least I didn't, walk away from the game because I was injured a lot. So that's one thing that I love, and I do appreciate that. Now, I know towards the end of my career with the Indians, they had, I guess in my eyes, felt like if you couldn't throw with intent that day, and you were going to, as I heard Tom House say, cast it out, just kind of cast. What is your thought process on that? Would you rather someone just maybe take a day off or do something else instead of just lobbing the ball, casting it out? If they're not going to be able to throw it with intent, would you rather them just like not throw at all?
Yeah, I would think, a professional player, by the time he's in the big leagues, he's throwing every day, right? And again, it's volume. He might only make, the process, like they might be in front of a pad, with a weighted ball, and that's their warm up, and then they might make, 30 throws. That's all they would do. Maybe go out to 90 or 120 feet. But, for me, it's just like using the body appropriately, like moving, right? Like don't go move. If you practice slow, you're going to be slow, right? And like big, strong guys like you guys can make a lot of force and you don't have to move really fast to do it. So that's sort of sometimes I think kids or you watch guys on TV and they go like, they're not moving as fast as like Ken would make me move in your delivery, right? Because I go, we got to create some force somehow. So for me, but I'm building that way. Like younger kids, it's like, no, they're not throwing every day. They're taking time off. As we get college, day after maybe, but pro baseball, we're going. And so I would just try to design programs so that they would have that arm health and that stamina that they'd allow them to do it. Now, the intentfulness, meaning like, long toss with pull downs, that's not happening every day. It might happen once a week or just pitching in games. Yeah. Just pitching in games, right? If you're starting pitcher, you got one bullpen day on a 5-day turn and you're in the mound, that's good. You don't have to practice throwing hard if you're doing that. But I don't want to ever make slow movements and nothing coming out. I just don't understand. I think that the greatest chance for injury and unlocking, screwing up your body and getting out of sequence happens when you're just playing lob, ball, catch, and you're not working appropriately.
Yeah, and I'm glad you said that because I feel like that was one of the issues I had early on in my career. Arm was a little sore, let's just get it out there. But I appreciate pretty much.
Hey, Percy, how about?
Yep.
Well, I always think of this. Bowers, this is in Bowers with the Indians, and he goes, Ken, come here for a minute. And everybody's down below on field 3 playing catch, all the big leaguers. There's 40, it's early in spring training. He goes, if you just look at these guys playing catch, you can tell which guys are Indians and which guys are new, minor league free agents that we brought in just by how they play catch. He goes, those guys can all pitch, but they don't throw like we do. Like, look at them. And it's just obvious, right? You know what I'm talking about, right? They're moving their feet. They're throwing on a line. There's a lot of, and big leaguers are into their throwing programs, believe me, and our high minor leaguers, mature guys, they get it. Yes. The young guys, that's what we're trying to teach them type of thing. But it's true. Like you could just look at them, Indian, free agent sign, Indian, just like that. Yeah. And they're good pitchers, but not really great throwers. And that's, again, part of the thing. Be a great thrower, and then pitching becomes a lot easier.
Well put. Well, the one thing I just got one last question to close this out, and I don't know how you can answer this or if it's just a simple yes or no. Is velocity important?
Absolutely.
All right. I like the answer. Answer.
Like brains. Yeah, it's like brains or beauty or money. Yeah, it's really important, right? It's like it just gives you it gives you a chance to screw up. You can, you watch games now, and I was with my buddy Owen Dew. He's one of the pitching coaches in the minor leagues with the organization yesterday. And he goes like, I can't believe he missed that pitch. And I go, well, it's 97. It was down the middle, but it was a little bit elevated. And it was 97. I mean, that ball's moving. You know that, right?
Yes. Yeah.
It's like anybody stand in and watch a guy throw close to 100 miles an hour and your mind will be blown how they ever get hit. Like, or why would you even want to try to hit that or even have the courage to stand in there because it's something else. But we train for velocity. Velocity will get you a job, and then getting people out will obviously distinguish your career or make you a good pro. Yeah. So that's what we're training for velocity, but that's not pitching, right? We're pitching to command the ball. We're pitching to, have a great delivery. Or having a great delivery to pitch well. But like, I'm always training to try to throw hard.
Gotcha. I like it. Well, I wasn't saying that's the answer I'm looking for, but I'm glad that's exactly what I wanted you to say that I just couldn't say. But Ken, man, I appreciate, you coming on the show, short notice, and just making it happen and sharing all your knowledge with us. Like you said, you've been coaching for a very long time. And like for the people around here who know, all the coaches has been with the Indians, like Charlie Manuel, Mike Hargrove, and Altito, they don't get to see, the guys molding the kids and players at a younger age to get them, kind of up the ladder. And that is very important. Trust me, in my career, I have noticed how important having great coaches at the lower levels and just great people that can lead you to the right way, because there's a lot of stuff you have to deal with. And, but like I said, I appreciate having you on the show. Hopefully we can maybe have you back sometime to talk about, some other stuff involving pitching. But I use this podcast, if you couldn't tell, just to learn more stuff. I'm just like asking these questions like, all right, I'm trying to soak in energy.
I'll give you my secret to coaching and being successful. It's really simple. It's just have really good players, and then you're a really good coach, right? Have good players, and you're a good coach, right?
I like it. See, this is why I
when Beaver's throwing, we all feel really smart. Like, man, that guy's good.
Oh, speaking about Beaver, I might have to get him on the show as well. I'm gonna have to get him on here next. But yeah, it was just amazing. Him and Savali were at the Arizona level, like rookie ball, when I was down there rehabbing, and you just don't. Now look at Savali and Beaver, and they're just starting rotation. Beaver's all world and looking like the next Corey Kluber. So it's magical.
Yeah, it's good. It's a heck of a staff. Hell of a start for the pitching staff. It's been great, and hopefully tomorrow's going to get us going at the plate. Right, drop that 10 spot.
Oh my gosh,
and
yes.
Let's go now. I'm ready to roll.
Stay hot. Mm-hmm. Well, I know I know you're in Arizona, and you got a lot of day left, and I envy that. But hopefully we can get back on here, and I appreciate you sharing your information, and I guess have a good one, and we will try to. I think we might be having Cece. She was like the mental coach. She was a part of a lot of what I did. And there might be some other people that we can bring on the show from the Indians, but I'm glad, Ken kicked it off with us and was kind enough to come by. But all right, Ken.
All right, Percy. Well, thank you. I appreciate it, man.
Yep. You have a good night, man. Well, we appreciate everybody watching. Again, you can find this podcast everywhere. YouTube, iTunes, podcasts, Spotify. Those are the main ones. And also check out my merch store for the scholarship. teespring.com/stores/Perci-Garner. He'll put that up, all the links, whatever. Also, links to the other channels will be in the description. You can just go to getlevel.com and find all the podcasts there. And again, contact Josh on the Get Level pod website if you want to sponsor any of the podcasts or all of them. Merry Christmas to all, and to all a good night. No, I'm joking. I gotta come up with something. But I guess I always do this. Peace. Well, we appreciate everybody listening. I don't know why I always have my hands up here. I appreciate it.
Energy.
Yeah, Krista, my wife, always makes fun of me. She's like, well, what are you doing with your hands?